everyone. Welcome back to another session of my LinkedIn Live. I know I've been a little bit quiet the last 1.5 weeks since we ran 7 panel discussion last month. So this month, we're going to bring forward another 7 panel discussion. And this time, I've selectively picked experts, women founders, and women coaches from all over the world that is not yet on spinelessacademy.com. So we're bringing you fresh faces and experts, and they're coming for today's session. We have 3 experts from the US as well as Pakistan, and they're women founders and coaches. And they want to share with you today some strategies, experiences, and struggles when it comes to pivoting their business as a woman-led business. So before we get started, I want to say hi to those of you who joined me. Thank you so much. Good morning from India, from Romania. Okay, and living in Poland. Thank you so much for tuning in. From Brunei, I can see some from Pakistan as well, from Malaysia. So I'm really excited for today's conversation, and I don't want you guys to be shy. There'll be a lot of things they will be sharing, but if you have any questions that you want to find out the answer so bad, they're open to answer them today. So the next 1 hour discussion, we're going to have a lot of time, and we're going to have a lot of interesting conversation. But before we get started, just very quickly, I want to let you know that this entire LinkedIn series is part of being sponsored by spinelessacademy.com. So very quickly, I'm just going to show you what Spineless Academy is about for those of you who have no idea yet what I do. So I'm the CEO of spinelessacademy.com. So on my screen, you would see my platform where you are able to access for free webinars from experts all over the world. If you're thinking of upgrading your skill, tapping on somebody else's knowledge, pick a brain of an expert, you want to get a personal mentorship, you want to ask questions that you have in doubt when it comes to your own business, or you want to learn a brand new topic, okay, or enter a new area of expertise, definitely Spineless Academy is the place to go. So coming up, just a couple of webinars to highlight to you. It's about, eliminating self-doubt, marketing yourself, knowing more about AI, financial modeling, personal branding, investment in yourself as a personal brand. So there is a lot of webinars that's happening all the time. So simply log on, start an account for free, register, and sit through these webinars yourself. Everything is live, so your experts that you sign up for might be based anywhere in the world. But during this conversation, because it's live, you can ask them any questions so that you can clarify your doubt. And if you want to work closer with them, feel free to actually access their expert profile and book them for consultation, whether it's 30 minutes, 1 hour, or 2 hours on the platform. So our mission is just personally feel as an entrepreneur that I learn the most from other people's experience. So I believe experience sharing definitely is going to contribute to your personal growth in the future. So without wasting time, a lot more people are tuning in. Thank you so much from Malaysia and Philippines. I'm really excited, and I'm going to bring the ladies on board, and we are going to kick off. So today panel discussion with women in business is discussing about pivoting in the pandemic, which is affecting every single one of us. Hi ladies, how are you?
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
So we're super excited. We're live, and I was just checking the comments earlier. So we have some people from Fiji, Malaysia, Poland. Oh my God. So this is a global, international audience. So without wasting any more time, I'm going to start with Evelyn. If you can share us a little bit more about what you do and why you're so passionate about it.
Sure. So my name is Evelyn Batanzas, and I am a mindset transformation coach. I'm also the CEO and owner of the Fab Chiefess brand, and she is Fab, a women's empowerment fashion brand. And the whole purpose of what I do is to inform and empower women to lead better lives.
Thank you so much. Jabin, how about yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Jabin, and I am an expressive artist, writer, and a self-love coach. So I help people become more expressive through different forms of creative expression, so that they can release suppressed emotions and find self-love. And this is important to me because I myself have suffered from years of self-suppression, and when I started working on it, it really, up-leveled my life, my work, and it brought a lot of motivation and passion. So yeah, I'm really passionate.
Thank you so much. Kara, tell us a bit more about what you do and why you're passionate about it.
Just as an aside, it's like midnight here in the on the East Coast. So I'm normally up this late, but not necessarily, it's been interesting to be up and talking about any of it, business at this hour. But anyways, so I'm a personal style coach and a makeup artist. I help men and women business owners transform from frustrated and frumpy to feeling fabulous and confident with their wardrobe and their image. And why I'm passionate about that is because when I was, gosh, I don't know what you call tweens or teens or whatever they are, I felt invisible a lot of the time. And I felt like, wow, if I felt like this when I discovered that I had a talent for dressing, putting outfits together and things like that, and people responded to me differently, then all of a sudden, wow, oh, I showed up. And, and I feel like a lot of people probably have that, that challenge. And so then I thought, well, that's my mission, to help people feel seen and heard and that they matter. So that's why I do what I do.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I totally agree as well. I believe that you have to get noticed in order for your brand to take you further. And you can see the difference as soon as people will start to behave a little bit more differently when they appeal better to how you dress. Thank you so much. So today, everyone, we're going to talk about how these ladies pivot their business, because I can guarantee you, not only me, not only you, they're also having their challenges during this time of pandemic, especially in the countries they come from. There's a lot of things that we need to change in our business to adopt to the new normal. So let's just ask them some raw and honest questions. Starting with Evelyn, we want to know, how has the pandemic affected your business and how did you pivot?
Well, as a coach, most of us tend to work face to face, right? Before the pandemic, we would meet with our clients and work with them one on one. But with the pandemic, that face to face interaction is no longer available, or if it is very limited depending on the conditions of where you live. So I had to shift completely from that face to face interaction from brick and mortar to now being solely remote, solely online, and focusing more on engaging via social media, which wasn't even part of my whole marketing strategy prior. So learning and creating that shift was pretty challenging.
So you managed to pivot at some point by adapting to the new strategy. Did you go to attend a course or learn from another coach to help you with digital marketing?
So I actually did work with a business coach to help me shift into the remote learning, the remote teaching, to help me learn about strategies to have wider engagement via the various portals, right? Because right now there's so many. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's Clubhouse, there's all these different ways to connect with people.
Yep, absolutely. That's challenging as well, because we have far too many choices. Okay, we'll try to find our ground in all these different places, knowing which one appeals to our business most. Thank you so much for sharing that, Evening. Jabin, how about yourself? How has the your business and how did you pivot?
So the pandemic actually really pushed me to take my company, the Wishing Well, like full time, because I was I was pretty conflicted before. I wasn't doing it full time, and then I got fired beginning of the pandemic. So that really gave me the push, and I got certified as a life coach, and then I started doing this full time. So yeah, that was the good part, and the struggle came when like before I was teaching art, and then it was all like in person experience, like as mentioned earlier. So it was a bit difficult to translate all of that online. So but how I managed was that, again, I focused on the community element of art making. So I started doing workshops, and where different people can just come together and talk about art and make art together. Like, I do this workshop called like Journal with Me, and it does really well. So yeah, I started focusing more on community, and that really helped.
Thank you so much for sharing. So a little bit, Evelyn, we understand that, of course, physical face-to-face is going to be an obstacle. So we move on to digital for the wider reach. And Jabin mentioned about building a virtual community of people with similar interests who likes to do what you like to do. And you build relationship from there. Like, ladies, I really believe virtually you can really build relationship. You don't have to meet somebody in person like what we do right now. We never meet each other, but we met each other online, and that's good enough. So, Kara, how about yourself? How has your pandemic affect your business, and how did you pivot?
Well, obviously when the country shut down, nobody was going to the mall. nobody was doing anything pretty much outside of their house. Everybody was in, shopping online. So, basically I just learned to figure out how to serve more people online. So, having color consults online, having closet or what I call wardrobe walkthroughs online, which I was doing already before the pandemic happened, because I had some clients who were either out of state or more than an hour away from me. So I would, we would walk through on FaceTime or Zoom or Skype or whatever it was to look at their closet and see what was happening. And so that it taught me, okay, I can have this online experience with people who globally, like you could be in Italy and have a closet walkthrough with me versus, normally I would do a lot of stuff in person. And there were still some people that wanted to do things in person, believe it or not, during the pandemic. So, I mean, but it taught me how to, okay, I want to set up a system so that I can do all, have more interactions with clients that I wouldn't necessarily have who aren't I live in Northern Virginia, so in my little DMV area, these would be clients that I'd have access to outside of this space, regardless, so yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What I hear is amazing, because now when you discover there's another way to do things virtually, it's opening more channels of revenue, because now your customer database is now not just the vicinity of where you are based, but it's way outside. Like you said, Italy, I have a closet, so in Singapore.
Right.
So your potential list of customers just expand. And of course, this transition is a challenge. Basically, you want to implement this. Like you said, having a structure and a system is very important if you want to start implementing things at bigger scale. So that's something we need to remember. Just because we make a change, it doesn't end there. We need to have a proper system, new SOP, in order to execute this to the best we can. And we're still learning in the process. So for those of you joining us, please leave us some questions. I would love to get them to address your questions before the end of today. Now, after we learned all of your challenges, the pandemic affecting your business, and you pivoted successfully, which is amazing. Now, I know it's not easy. So we want to go to the hard story now, where we really want to hear you share what is the biggest challenge, at least in the last 12 to 18 months. And how did it make you feel, your emotions, if you can take us through that so we don't feel alone, for some of you who also lost your job, for some of you trying to grow your business, we all have the same challenges pretty much. So if you can tell us honestly your biggest challenge and your emotions and how you overcome it, we would love to hear it. Let's hear from Evelyn first.
Sure. So even though I'm a mindset coach, I am also human. So I experience a lot of the same emotions and challenges that everyone else experiences. As a solopreneur, especially, learning how to market remotely, virtually, and having all these different channels, I encountered a lot of overwhelm and lack of time. Finding the time to do all the things, to be the marketer, be the CEO, be the salesperson, be the person who creates all the material, and also showing up and engaging authentically on all these platforms. Again, we have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Clubhouse, all of these things. And just, again, finding the time to do all of that and run my business and coach clients, there's a lot of overwhelm. But again, because I'm a mindset coach, I'm able to address that in a way that maybe somebody who doesn't have the same background or tools and resources is unable to.
Yeah, that's a great sharing, because as you can hear, everyone, even a coach, even every one of us are human, right? I would believe that a lot of us are going through burnout. And even in my personal experience, I've had more burnouts last year than I did pre-COVID, because it's just too overwhelming. And I've got 3 kids, and all of us are at home. So that's additional challenge. And I think it's expected. So it's not like we are sick or we are weak. It's just expected, because it's just a chaotic period for the world. But we just have to find our way to recover, right? We just need to understand, okay, I'm not good at something. I need help. and I need to find a coach or someone to listen to me to help me get through it. So thank you
Yeah,
so much. Yep,
but
go ahead.
not just that. One last thought: because we're CEOs or the founders of our businesses, we tend to want to do everything all the time. So finding the balance between, okay, I'm going to work on this, but then also take time for yourself. That's important.
Yep, I believe that's why I think self-care is one of the most important things to keep the balance, and we have to take care of ourselves because we can never pour from an empty cup. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Eileen. So, Jabin, about yourself as well. Now, you went through a tremendous change for somebody who has been fully employed before. With the COVID coming unexpectedly, you lost your full-time job. Although that the opportunity for you to be fully involved in what you do right now, but I'm sure that's a challenge. So, if you can elaborate a little bit more about the challenges and emotions and how you eventually become positive and move on.
So it's just I'm a huge being an independent artist. I'm a huge believer in doing things my own way, but it's just somehow I forgot that, and I just started like depending on other people, like like grants and incubation programs and all of that to support me, to fund my business. And it was a huge challenge because it was very, very hard for people to understand what I do, especially where I live. It is very new. I think it's new all over the world, but especially where I live, personal development is very, very new, and using art for personal development is like completely new. So I got rejected again and again, and I at some points I really felt insulted, and I felt like I should just give up, I should just get a job. But I did not let myself get trapped there. Like I was like, no way, I'm no way going back there. There's no way I'm going to get a job again. I really need to focus on this. So what really helped was getting a business coach, working with a business coach, and also I don't know if you guys know about human design. So I got my human design reading. So it really helped me to market my business and do things my own way, and it really, really helped. And also one thing that I've learned is that when you take advice from someone, this is a mistake that I made over and over again. Taking advice from people that don't understand what you do. Like now, I only take help, support, or advice from either an artist, like an independent artist who is doing things their way, or like a life coach who really understands how things work. So you cannot expect your family to understand, your friends to understand. You should really like take support of people who really understand what you do, and they would be able to guide you better and be there when you want to just vent out. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sure rejection is really something difficult. I mean, once or twice is okay, but repeated rejections, you get your hopes up at some level and then you get disappointed and you're trying to stay motivated, wake up another day, trying to do business or connect with people. But your advice, definitely coming from experience, letting us know that we don't have to listen to everybody. Then maybe we can take opinions, ponder upon them, but not necessarily follow what everyone tells us to do, right? Just because they decided to give us advice. We need to make the conscious analysis whether is this person giving me an advice the right person for my industry, because if the person understand where you stand, it just makes more sense. Their advice will take you further. Thank you so much, Javin, for being open and sharing with us that. And rejection is what every one of us encounter. Most are rejected at least once in their life, so it's not anything new. It's not something we overcome.
Oop, I think she's frozen.
You get freedom.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you for a second.
You froze for us.
Yeah, I don't know if you asked something because you froze. And she's still a little froze.
Yeah, she's still frozen.
Gotta love technology. It works when it works, and it doesn't when it doesn't.
Well, she
I
said
was
go ahead and answer the question.
right. I think I'll just go there. And now she's, yeah. So the biggest challenge was just learning, okay, obviously there's no shopping right now. There's no in person necessarily being in, because a big thing of what I do is being in people's closets, right? Like I'm in person with you. I'm in person shopping with you. So a lot of that went away, almost immediately, because like we don't know what this COVID thing is. We don't know how, exactly how it's being transmitted. We don't know what's going on. So people are, there's another part of a business that I have. I close loans. So I had to go to other people's houses and, normally I could go to their office, I could go to a Starbucks or whatever if they were refinancing, and I'm basically just bringing them their paperwork and all this other stuff. So that was another aspect of my business that I was dealing with. And that blew up because the interest rates were so low. So like, from basically March to October, I was doing 8 to 10 of these a day. And so my style stuff kind of went to the side because that was all about being in person and whatever. And so the real estate stuff was in person too, but this was more like people were like, yes, we want to get this done. Like that's what had to happen. So yeah, it was a little bit different and a little bit of a shift, and you had to deal with everybody's like whatever about what they were doing with, oh my gosh, we don't know what this COVID thing is. Let's wear masks. Let's, it was kind of crazy. So, yeah, it was just sort of, just being in a way, what's the word? Sort of compassionate, that everybody didn't necessarily know what was happening, but just being like, hey, we're all in the same boat. Hey, we don't know what this is, but at the same time, we're just dealing with it, and we're going to, we're here to just get it done, whatever it is that we're doing. So it was that aspect of like, I would go to some people's houses and you would think the plague had hit and it was the end of the world. And then you had other people that was like, it didn't even exist. That nobody's wearing masks, nobody's doing anything. So you have to learn how to just deal with like whatever, I don't want to show up with a gas mask on and all this other stuff. Whatever the person was comfortable with, that's what I would show up with. Like I always had my mask and all that stuff. But if they didn't want to wear it, I was okay not wearing it too. You know what I mean? Like you just sort of like deal with what you got at the end of the day. So it is what it is. We lost you there for a second.
Think it's really important. Well, I mean, in this scenario or anything else in the my internet is just not with me today. Is everybody able to hear me right now?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you now. You faded off, and I just answered the question from what you were asking the other two ladies because we lost you for a second, so we're good.
Okay. So Evelyn, back to you. How do you handle failures and negativity? So how do you handle failures and negativity? Evelyn, you?
Well, I always talk about this with my clients and on my social media. I believe that failures are actually a positive because through failure, we learn how to adapt, what to change for the next time, and we learn from it. So I see failure as a step to my next success, or for those of you listening and watching, to your next success. So you should really embrace failure, not necessarily see it as a negative. When it comes to negativity, again, even though I'm a mindset coach, I am human. I try to focus on how to shift that for the positive. Find something in that negative thought to reframe for the positive, and also think about why I'm having that thought. Where is it stemming from? What is the root? And if I can't find that in the moment, then I go to my gratitude. I think about the things that I am grateful and happy for, what brings me joy, that will take me out of that negative state.
Jacqueline, how about words if somebody tells you, maybe doesn't make sense, but people want to say you're not good enough for what you do, or negative words coming from close friends or people you actually personally know who just want to put you down when you start a business. How do you handle those kind of words coming that you don't really want to hear?
Well, if it's somebody that I'm really close to, I would ask why, right? Why do you feel the need to express that? Where is that coming from? Obviously, it has to first, my belief has to be strong in myself, right? In order to have those hard conversations. And if it turns out that they just are in a state where they're not able to shift, where they really don't believe in me, or where they're trying to hold me back from where I want to go, or who I want to be, then at that point, that means that relationship is not going to serve me. And so I have to break away. So definitely, I recommend if you have somebody in your life who is maybe speaking negatively or questioning where you're going, have that conversation. But if you cannot get past that conversation, then it might be time to reassess the relationship.
Thank you for highlighting that. I think that especially women, we tend to be fragile, but we need to be bold enough to cut back people who doesn't benefit us in any way. If someone's going to hold you back 5 steps behind, it's really forward. We have to reassess the relationship, as Evelyn mentioned, and she did that, so we should all consider doing that as well. So, Jabin, about yourself, how about failures and negativity? Is there anything that you do, self-care, speak to about making yourself feel better during these times?
So, my first reaction is always anger, either anger or sadness or just depression. So what I really like to do and what I really advocate for is just sitting with your emotions, taking the time out to, if you're sad, if you're angry, just sit with that. And if you have someone you can cry with, or you can vent out to, a friend who can just listen to you and not offer their advice or be like, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Just listen. Somebody who can just listen to you and cry with you and whatever. So do that. And what I always do is I always, whatever emotion I have, I always channel it into some kind of art. Like I would either write a poem about it, or I would make a drawing out of it. And then whenever I'm ready for the next step, which is like Evelyn said, that finding the using it for your success. So like I journal about it. Why did this happen, and what went wrong, and how can I avoid this again, and how can I use this for my advantage? And and if you're a coach, then every failure that you have, just write it down, and later on, you can use that failure in your podcast, or if you do like a live session with somebody, you can always tell them about that failure. So that is something that I always think about. Whenever whatever story that happens in my life, I'm always like, I can use this in a poem, I can use this in a blog. So yeah, that is something that you can do, like something creative that you can do with your how you feel. And again, like Evelyn said, having people around that are supportive, because it's just what I've noticed is that when you have a business, and even your closest friends, when they see you, you're failing, you're very very vulnerable at that point. So be very very careful who you share that with, and whose advice you take at that moment, because people, even the people closest to you, will use that opportunity to bring you down. And they might do it intentionally, or they might do it unintentionally, to just to, like, if I go to my sister and say, oh, my business isn't working, she'll be like, just quit your business and just get a job. I mean, she's saying that just to ease my suffering, right? But that's not what I'm going to do. So yeah, just be very 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 conscious about it. And always always be careful who you share your feelings with, especially when you're going through like a time when you're failing, or when there's negativity around you. And try to surround yourself with supportive people. Again, people who understand what you do. That's really really important.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I remember the earlier time I was a stay-home mom 10 years ago. So when I started my business, I always cry. Somebody said something, I'm going home and cry the whole day. And I realized at some point, Why am I crying for what someone else say? I just take the happy day away from my kids. And I said, that is not a worth thing to do, because my kids doesn't have the best of me because I was affected by someone else. But now that I'm older, as well, long in business, I also have a therapy, like you said. It's always nice to have somebody to give us a non-judgmental space to listen without necessarily judging or giving advice. So I have that coach every 2 weeks to listen to me, my ranting, my complaint, which I still have, because we're human, and somebody just listen. And that actually is a very healing process for me. And I continue to try because I get it off my chest. So thank you for your advice, and also to be very careful with the content you give to others. And your failures today will be the story people want to hear tomorrow. So that is
Yeah.
really important. And I think, how you fail today is a story people want to hear tomorrow. So it will always be an asset for you. You just need to learn how to monetize it, how to use it, how to strategize it. But you'll get further with such a story. So thank you so much. Kara, I'm excited to hear about how you handle failures and negativity as well.
Well, I definitely resonated with that, like telling people, because in my other life, I worked in corporate for, I don't know, 20 years or whatever it was. And I sort of fell into entrepreneurship. And so, whenever I would talk to a friend, like, oh, it's, anybody that's been an entrepreneur knows sometimes it's feast, sometimes it's famine. Like you could have, a good month or good 3 months, and then it's like crickets. There's nothing happening. So, and I found that people who are more, as I would call it, industrial mindset of like, oh, you get a job or you get an education, you get a job, you stay with that job for 30 years. They don't get the same understanding of like an entrepreneur because, there's some days you work, but you don't get paid. Like they don't understand that. They work for a paycheck and they get paid. So that's what they understand. So when I'm just saying like, oh, it's been a little frustrating, it's this and that, well, get a job and do, you have an education, you have a bachelor's, do this. And it's just like, that's not why I'm talking to you about this. I'm just telling you that it's a little frustrating, blah blah blah. And and my parents are the same way. Like we're in the information age now where you literally can sit home or on a beach or wherever you're at and make money. It's not the same as what our parents and our grandparents had to deal with. So I don't necessarily think that there's any failures. I think everything is feedback and education about how to do something a little bit different, depending on whatever it is that you're doing. And the negativity is like, yeah, you have to know who you're talking to about, where they've been. Because again, if you've had somebody who never had an entrepreneurial, they never owned a company, they never did any of that, they're just not going to get it. And they're not they're not somebody you can really talk to about, I'm a little frustrated because again, it's been feast or famine for the last 3 months. They're not going to get it. They're just going to be like, get a job. And that's it. That's going to be their answer. So just know who your audience is, know who you can talk to, and just really deal with other people who are entrepreneurs because they get it. Like we all have, there's a specific, what is it called? A community. There's a specific community with entrepreneurs where you get it. They get it. We all get it. But people who are not built that way don't get it. So don't bang your head up against the wall because they're just not going to get it. And it's not bad. It's just, it is what it is. Just saying. So.
Thank by the way, if in case any one of you is looking for people who are like-minded individuals, like Karen mentioned, I think being part of community is amazing. Facebook has a lot of groups, community of women, such as Evelyn, Jabin, and that's where I met them. That's where I met them. I decided to enter Facebook groups and connect with entrepreneurs, group founders, and that's how we get connected. So even if any of you are feeling alone right now because your family member don't understand you, like me, my entire family for generations, not a single person is an entrepreneur. And I told people I'm going to run my company, people are like, what? So, and that's not because they don't care about you. That's because they probably care too much about you. So they don't understand the path you're taking and they're afraid you get hurt. So try to connect with people in private groups. There's a lot of them on Facebook. So, and Kara is that, and thank you so much for sharing that. So now I'm going to go on with deeper question, individual for every single person. So let's start with Evelyn. So, Evelyn, you said that you personally has went through various transitions in your life, and you work with coaches yourself and therapists. Now, can you
Mhm.
share one transition that changed you or an experience that life changing for you?
Well, believe it or not, I actually worked with a nutritionist a couple of years back. I've always been, well, not always. I was a high school athlete. After I got into college, though, I let my eating slip away, thinking my body would just, adapt. It did not. I gained a lot of weight. I got close to 300 pounds. And it wasn't until I tried to sit on a ride at Six Flags where I couldn't fit that I had my aha moment. And the reason why I worked with a nutritionist is because I was still active, I was still working out, I just had no control of my eating. So working with this nutritionist, which also helped with the mindset, right? Because she served two purposes, the nutrition as well as my mental state. It allowed me to take control of my eating on top of the physical activity, which of course gave me a lot more joy in life, a lot more movement, the ability to partake in so many more activities, not to mention shifting the mindset as well as boosting the confidence. So that transition was really pivotal in my life.
Wow, that's really amazing. And I can see you successfully lose it all and looking fit and fabulous today. So that's really a life changing
Thank you.
experience. I mean, I can imagine how much effort you put in through and that mindset to keep you going, keeping in momentum. It's not easy, I must say, to stay on that path. But I guess your desire is more than the challenges. So that's what took you here. That's inspirational. So thank you for sharing that with us, Evelyn.
Sure.
So, Jabin, let's go to you as well. And you advocate for empowerment through creative expression. And I agree with you. I'm not good at drawing at all. But sometimes when I'm angry or I'm sad, I do sketch something. I do. I just naturally I picked up a pen like I'm 3 years old, and I had to sketch. And of course, it looks ugly, but it doesn't matter because it's a creative expression, and I feel less angry, less tense. So, don't do it for some reason right as we get older. Maybe can you share with us more about the 5-step method you talked before about finding confidence and freedom to project your true the world through creative expression, I guess.
Yeah, so my 5 step system is something I made myself that I use myself. And I didn't even realize what I was doing then. It's just now when I think about it and I reflect back on my past, I was like, and now that I studied everything, I studied art therapy, psychology, and all of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did all of that. I didn't even know what I was doing. So it's a combination of different studies actually, and it's everything's on my website if you want to go check that out. So it's so the first step is basically uh, overcoming the self doubt when it comes to creating or just it's the first step basically, and the second step is basically to find a means of expression that is unique to you, because a lot of the people they're afraid of art making or just expressing themselves in any way, because they're like, oh, I'm not an artist, I cannot paint. Well, being someone like I have been all over the place. I started from studying fashion to working as a content writer to a graphic designer to an illustrator, children's book illustrator. So I've been all over the place. And so, everybody has a different way of expressing themselves. So that is that. And then, creating your space, and then whatever space you have, curating it. Like you can see my background. This is my space. This is where I feel so high vibe. And because when you're creating or when you're expressing yourselves, when you're processing your emotions, you really really need to feel inspired. So that is the inspiration aspect, something that would keep you motivated. Having your safe space. I'm sure you've heard that word like a million times. um, and then so that is like the first step of being able to sit down with yourself, being by yourself, and processing your emotions and finding empowerment in that. And then the second phase is all about projecting that into the world. So it's all about finding your community, like outside of your house, like outside of your friend circle, meeting people, going out, finding people online, and all of that, so that you can connect with people who understand what you do. It's so important when you want to express yourself. And even if you're somebody who does like plus size fashion, or you know uh, something that's different from what other people are doing. And art is always different. So you always need a community who would understand what you're doing. So that, and then the empowerment piece is like the final step. Just the how you talk to people, how you show up, and how you dress up, the hair you have, and everything. So you reach that level after you have your community. And then you're able to actually step out of your comfort zone, and actually like um actually start to be the person that you are on the inside, that the person that you really want to be, and becoming so empowered that you have your voice, and you can say whatever you want to say to people. And just having your own way of working through the negativity and the rejections and all of that. And just yeah, becoming the last piece is just becoming empowered. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Everything that you share sounds like a process. I guess people can't achieve that overnight, but you remind me of a very popular saying, just be yourself because everyone else is taken. So the only best person you can be is just you and work to improve yourself every day. Kara, thank you so much. Kara, I have a story I want to hear from you because you mentioned that one of your amazing highlight in your career was having Leonardo DiCaprio as your client. I love that guy. And he's not married, but I am, so sadly. How did you get how did you get that opportunity? How did that come about? How did you get it and how did you perform it? I want to hear.
So it's so random. Like I couldn't even tell you. Like I got a call one day. So one of the other things I do is bartend. So I was at my hotel at working. I had just got to my shift, and I get a call from somebody who says he's Leonardo DiCaprio's management or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, he's gonna be in he's gonna be in Washington for the he's gonna give a speech at the State Department because he just donated like $7 million to ocean conservation, and so he's gonna be talking to the State Department about that whole thing." And I was just like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like it was so random and out of left field, and so I was like, who referred you to me? And he told me somebody's name, and I have no idea who that person was. And so he was just like, yeah, if you're available, it's going to be like you need to be there. He's going to be at the Ritz-Carlton in Georgetown. It's going to happen at like 7:30 in the morning if you can come. And you're grooming him. Like I wasn't dressing him, I was grooming him. And at the time, he was um, shooting the movie The Renovants. So he was a little scruffy with his facial hair, and his hair, he was growing it out. And at the time, I don't know if you remember when it was in the news that he had been on a yacht with like 20 models or something like that, wherever they were at. So he had a little bit of sunburn. So it wasn't like I had to do much, right? Like I had to put a little concealer, a little powder, whatever. So my friend was doing his hair. She's my hair person that whenever I do brides or whatever, I bring her along. And so we got there, and he wasn't even awake when we got there because he was a little whatever he was doing the night before. I have no idea. And he comes out of his room, his bedroom, in his robe, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Leo." And we were like, really, you know what I mean? And he was just so fun and friendly, and he just was the nicest guy, and he was still working on his speech, and he was making jokes, and it was just like, is this real right now? Like, are we really talking to this guy? Like, it was really strange. And so, it was what it was. I powdered him up, and my friend did his hair as much as she could do with it, and we were there for probably like an hour. And we were just like, it was just this weird thing of just like, this guy's an A-list actor. Like, you can't get any higher than this. How did this happen? Like, it was odd. I have no idea. So, we were acting normal as much as we could in the moment. And I really wish we would have took a selfie with him, but I think his assistant was new too, so she was trying to still impress him on some level, so she was like, no pictures, da, da, da. But if we'd asked him, he'd have been okay with it, because really, honestly, he was such a nice, down-to-earth guy. I don't think it would have been a big deal, but we were not trying to be like groupies, in it as well. So we didn't do it. But if I could do it over, I'd have been like, hey, can we take a picture before we get started? You know what I mean? Because it was just like, this is a once in a lifetime kind of thing. Like, you just don't know when that's going to come around again. So yeah, it was fun, and he was great. And yeah, I have no idea how that fell in my lap. It just did. It's just, so.
No, that's the best thing about it, because I'm surprised that you were nominated or you were referred or recommended by someone you don't even know. Isn't that amazing that you must have established your brand point, that people talk good things about you, they put your name forward, and they didn't expect anything in return. This person obviously didn't need to call you and say, hey, I need a referral fee or something like that. So there are
No.
genuine people out there who followed your brand, followed your journey, and probably is inspired by you, and they open doors for you. And that's why we should put ourselves out there, right? Whether physically or online, we need to build a brand. We need to show up, show commitment, tell people how friendly and easy to work with we are. And from there, someone, you never know, one of our followers or our fans, and they may never give us direct business, but they might give us something when there's opportunity arising. So that's an amazing story to remember,
Yeah.
that we are loved elsewhere, even by people we don't know. So we are still loved elsewhere.
I mean,
Thank you, ladies. We really
it was like that with Stacey London
yeah,
too.
exactly.
Like, when I got referred for her, I had a business mentor who I don't think the woman slept. Like, she would literally go and look on websites and things like that, and she's like, "Oh, I found this. There's somebody who wants a stylist on this mom website. Go check it out." So I responded to it because I'm a stylist, obviously, and then it turns out that this is Stacey London's people, from What Not to Wear. And she was starting a whole business, another company, on a freelance thing of like, she wanted every woman to be able to have a stylist no matter what their budget was, which the idea was great. The execution, maybe not so much, because honestly, if you have $100 budget and you want to pay for stylists, it doesn't work so much. But anyways, so like that happened. And it was just like, oh, wow, like, I wouldn't have had this opportunity if my business mentor hadn't been like scouring the web and finding this thing. And that was such an amazing thing to be connected with Stacey for 3 years, because she's like iconic. Like, she worked for Vogue, she worked for Mademoiselle, but she was like, hey, my 10 years that I worked for What Not to Wear was like the best education I had for dressing people, normal people. Like, when I was working in a magazine, I was dressing models, which was like dressing mannequins, because they're, a specific body type and whatever, but you're dealing with everyday people. It's a whole nother different story. So, but being able to deal with her and have interactions with her was like so amazing. Like, it made my life and change my life to be able to have worked with her and be trained by her. Like, you can't make that up. It was just kind of random how it happened, but it literally changed my life. So.
I definitely believe you as well. I think it's always nice when somebody has our interests at heart and keep a lookout for us. And that's an amazing thing that we can have in business, partners or friends like that. And that's how we can get to the next level,
sure.
because we have more than a pair of eyes looking out for opportunities. Yep, definitely. I mean, I think I would not get to where I am if it wasn't for investors who picked me up along the way and said, hey, I'm going to take you to the next level. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm not sure. And that's actually,
Yeah.
I want to go to the last question before we end off. I want to say, ladies, you guys have been amazing. Your stories are really captivating. And for me, I believe so for all the viewers who are listening in, because there's a lot of comments. So when you got time later, Ladies, look through the comments. Some of them are for you, and they just want to express their advice. Now, as we want to end off this discussion, because we've been here for 50 minutes, we want to end off with your best advice. So, what would be your advice to women out there who's contemplating to start their own business, but who's already, or those who have already started, but it's 50-50. Sometimes when you get started, you're on the fence. Should I go further and give it money, or should I just leave it and stop now? So they're still contemplating how to move forward. So what would you advise? Evelyn, let's start with you.
Well, two things, right? The first one is have a strong enough why, right? If you know your reason why you're pursuing something, that's going to carry you forward even when your motivation fades, because motivation is temporary. You go through these phases and cycles, right? So your why has to be strong, especially because as an entrepreneur, you play so many roles, especially as you're starting out, right? You're the CEO, like I said, you're the marketer, you're the salesperson, you're the customer service, you're tech, you're everything. And so you have to really be grounded in what your why is. The second one is do your research. I would reach out to individuals who are in the niche or the field that you're wanting to go into to get their advice, pick their brain, do your market research, make sure you have a good idea of the path you want to take forward, because it will give you less pain as you go down that road.
Yeah, very great advice. Thank you so much. I deeply believe in research as well, especially prospecting clients. For my part, you have to know a little bit about them, right, to offer them something. So that would definitely take you far. And also, I like the fact that we can get really overwhelmed, which is what makes people give up in the beginning because they feel they're like octopus trying to do everything. But eventually, if your business grow, you will be able to afford and outsource help. So it's not going to be like this the whole time. So it's just a period of
Yes.
time, and if you earn enough money, okay, I'm gonna get a part timer, I'm gonna get an intern, and you start growing, and things get easier, and you focus only on your relationships. Thank you so
Yes,
much,
but so
Evelyn,
many
for that
folks
advice.
give
So
up
if everyone's
early.
doing business, yes, and don't give up early. That's exactly correct. Thank you so much. Jabin, how about yourself? What would be your advice to women contemplating to start out or to continue their business?
So I'll just carry forward that motivation bit that Evelyn said, and I really struggle with that as well because I actually have a mood disorder. So some days I'm so motivated, and some days I'm just not motivated enough, and sometimes I just want to give up. So just you need to be very you need to really understand what your moods are like and where your motivation is coming in from, so that you can tap into that motivation again and again and again whenever you need it, and have it every day if you want to. Whatever that motivates you. If it's a person, if it's a podcast, if it's a book, just have a little bit of that every day. And when you're starting out, it's going to be really difficult, because you will understand um, a lot about yourself and also the people around you. How they will behave, if they're supporting you or if they're not supporting you. So you will find out a lot, and it will be a struggle as well as an amazing journey when you're starting your business. So yeah, you will get overwhelmed at times. So just remember your why. Just choose the one thing that really really makes you feel, it sets you on fire, makes you like you feel really passionately towards it, and just remember it every day. And one thing that I really struggled with in the beginning was just being all over the place, doing multiple things. And I also help people through that now. The people who are multi passionate, they have a lot of things going on. So just always pick one thing to focus on and keep refining it. Right? If it doesn't work, why didn't it work? What can I try? Can I change the time of, if it's a workshop, can I change the time? Can I change the title? Things like that, and just keep going and keep flowing. And one last thing, like Kara said, like friends, like not even friends, like people who just see you every day and they see what you're doing online and they just refer people to you. That is just so amazing, and it really, really helps. So, tell people what you do, post it online, and just don't be afraid. Like, I was afraid for a really long time. I would not post on my Facebook about what I do on my personal profile. I was like, these are friends, and they would get annoyed if I start talking about my business and blah blah blah. But then I got over that, and it really really helped me because I've been getting a lot of referrals. I've been getting corporate trainings, and I've been getting a lot of things just through just telling people, just posting online what I do, telling them what I do. And yeah, and like lately, like I mentioned earlier, that I was struggling with the finance and the funds and everything. At this point, only because I started telling people what I do, and being an artist, I started like visually showing them what I do, like video and photos. Now I have people coming to me and saying, "Oh, Jabeen, can we produce your YouTube show? Jabeen, can we fund you? Can we fund you so that you can just sit and make art?" And honestly, I'm like, wow, why didn't I just start telling people about what I do earlier? So yeah, just don't think and just do what you love.
Thank you so much. Doing what you love is really important. And I really like the part where you mentioned basically tell people your vision, where you're going, what kind of opportunities you're looking for. Because if you keep it to yourself, the only person who knows it is you. But say it out loud, what you stand up for, what you believe in, and where you're going. People are always listening, following through content. They are, following your journey. And it might strike one person or two person who goes like, hey, actually, I have what she wants. Actually, I want to be part of what she does. And this is coming from the personal stories, just to share with you ladies really quickly. In 2016, okay, when I was building my company, I was broke already from the company. So I was always sharing my vision online. And I got a random call one day from a family office. We met up 4 days later, and I was funded 500,000 8 days later. And it's all through because I was telling vision publicly on social media, and which is why I take it seriously. We had my number of followers. We never know who's reading information and who can act upon it. If they cannot do anything about it, it's okay. Maybe next time they'll do it. But what if that 1% could give you exactly what you wanted that takes you to the next level in business? Thank you so much for sharing that advice. Now, Kara, lastly for you, well, what would be your advice to women contemplating to start their own business?
Well, one thing I would say is, I've what's the phrase, like each one teach one, like whatever it is that you need to learn or you're good at or not good at, whatever is what you end up doing for other people. Like for me, not being able to be seen or heard and dressing well ended up being something because everybody needs that, right? Like I really want people to be able to put their clothes on and forget about them and go about their day, whether they're interviewing or going on a date or whatever it is, and feel confident about that so that they're not pulling and tugging on their clothes and feeling like, well, should I have worn this? Should I have not? Like all whatever it is, like, just what is it that your gift is to the world? You got to kind of figure that out. And so, one other little quick story is that I felt because I wasn't like I've had moments, right? Like I had the Leo DiCaprio thing, I had the Stacey London thing, and then I was feeling like, man, I'm not really where I want to be with my business. And so I had been to a conference and I was listening to a guy speak there, and his name is Jesse Itzler. And if you don't know who he is, he's Sarah Blakely's husband, who is the founder of Spanx. And so after he stopped speaking, well, while he was speaking, right, he's such an amazing storyteller. Like, and he's the guy who's like the serial entrepreneur. He's done so many amazing things. If you ever get a chance to hear him speak, it's amazing. But so while I was watching him speak, there was a point where he did this with his shirt. He like pulled on his shirt, and I was like, that's interesting. But I was so engrossed in his story, I didn't, do too much thinking about it. But then he did it again, and I was like, oh wow, his shirt is too big. And he feels some sort of way, like he feels insecure or whatever about it. And he's, it's a sort of an unconscious thing. So after the his speech was over, I went and talked to him, and I was like, hey, if your wife ever needs a stylist, let me know. And so, people have their moments of posturing, and he was just sort of like, oh, my wife, I need the stylist, not my wife, whatever. And so we took a picture, and then I DM'd him, and I was like, hey, just following up with you about whatever. And he was like, well, I don't really need a stylist, right? The posturing. And so then, but he speaks 40 times a year on stages. So I was like, wow, we could create what is it? Like a some sort of t-shirt and jeans, whatever for you, because his men wear clothes too big and women wear clothes too small. That's literally almost what happens, right? So he was wearing shirts too big. His jeans fit, but his shirt was too big. So I was like, but he had some really cool stuff, vintage. Like, he was the first guy who ever had a contract as a Caucasian man who had a rap contract, right? So he's dealt with all these African-American men like Dana Dane and Run DMC and all this other stuff. So, but he speaks on these platforms. And so, like, it would be cool to create a t-shirt and jeans sort of uniform for him. So he would speak and he would look professional, but still, his clothes would fit. So we worked on that. And then it was like, okay, we kept talking about it. And originally it was just supposed to be me creating an outfit list for him in Pinterest. And then he would just buy whatever he needed. And then it was like, it just wasn't happening. Like, for whatever reason, he was doing a book, and there was like, stuff was happening. So on the side, his wife was on Shark Tank. And so, like, I'm watching his wife on Shark Tank, and she's talking about how she was selling fax machines, and she was like, God, if this isn't what I'm supposed to do, like, because she wanted to create this Spanx thing and it wasn't happening. She's like, I'm only going to do this one more time. If this doesn't work out, like, I'm going to go back to selling fax machines, and it's going to be whatever. And so then the next day she saw Oprah talking about how she cut her feet out of her stockings or whatever it was. And so she knew to keep going after that. So that was like the thing with me then, like, oh my God, I'm watching his wife. And then the next day his assistant calls me and says, oh, Jesse would like you to come down and shop for him and clean out his closet and whatever. And I was just like, okay. Like, that was my thing of like, keep going, just keep going, because you never know like how it's going to work out. But I was in this mode of like, oh my God, do I need to do this? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Da da da. And then when that showed up, it was just like, okay, just keep going. So that is what I would say. Like, when you got in that mode of like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Yeah, it is. You know what I mean? So it was just sort of random. And no, that didn't end up being anything. I didn't meet his wife per se, because the day before I went to go there, she had to leave and whatever. But, but it still meant I was still supposed to be doing what I was doing, because there's other people that I'm helping change their lives by changing their wardrobe. So just keep going. That would be my advice. Just keep going.
Thank you so much. I always believe persistent pace, and one of the quotes I live by during when and questioning why to keep going. I always say that sometimes you think you've been buried, but actually you've been planted. So when you keep going, you realize in time you flower and blossom to a tree, and it grows into a forest, and your empire will be so big that there's no turning back, and you're enjoying what you do, and you go like, thank God I didn't give it up. I don't want to come back one day and regret, right? We don't want to wake up one day and say, oh, I shouldn't have regret. I shouldn't have stopped what I do. But we want to give it a try and see where this takes us. It will not be easy, because success is never easy, but we're going to get there. So ladies, it's inspiration for me in Singapore, because it's afternoon here. So Kara, thank you. And everyone else, I want to thank you again. And for those of them who left some questions for you in the comments, we're running out of time. So please feel free to look through their comments of what they do. They directly asked you. And for those of you tuning in, feel free to get connected with them. So their website, as well as their information in the description box, so you can just get in touch with them. Ladies,
thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet
Thank you
you,
so much.
ladies.
I think she's frozen again.
So we're gonna say goodbye. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there,
Bye.
there she is.
I know my internet is good. So goodbye and have a nice day, everyone.
Bye. Have a good night.
So